In the unit circle, the radius is 1. So the coordinates of 0 or 2 pi is equal to an x value of 1, a y value of 0. For pi over 2, that's an x value of 0 and a y value of 1. For pi, it's an x value of -1, a y value of 0. And for 3 pi over 2, it's an x value of 0 and a y value of -1. So again, not opposite over hypotenuse. We don't have a triangle here. We have x, y, and r. So sine is y over r. So the sine of 0 would be 0 over the radius of 1 or 0. Pi over 2. The y value is 1. The radius is 1. 1 over 1 is 1. For pi, the y value is 0. The radius is 1. 0 over 1 is 0. 3 pi over 2, the y value is -1, the radius is 1, to give you -1, and 2 pi and 0 are the same. 0 over 1 is 0. Now those are the basic points that you're going to use. So we're going to start at 0. So the sine of 0 is 0. The sine of pi over 2 is 1. The sine of pi is 0. The sine of 3 pi over 2 is -1. And the sine of 2 pi is back to 0. Now, if I want to look at those intermediate values, if I want to look at, this is actually 30 and 60, the sine of 30 is 1/2. And the sine of 60 is the square root of 3 over 2. So as I'm going from 0 to 1, it's increasing in a nice, smooth, continuous curve. And if I was to use a calculator, and I went the sine of 87, sine of 88, sine of 89, up to 90, I would get coming up nice as a smooth curve. It does not come up to a point and then go down to another point. These are a nice, smooth, continuous curve. So it's going to look like this. It's going to go 0 to 1 to 0 to -1 to 0. Now that's going around in a counterclockwise direction. If I use the unit circle and go in a clockwise direction, then 3 pi over 2 and -pi are the same. So negative pi over 2 is going to have the same value as 3 pi over 2 or -1. Negative pi would be 0. Negative 3 pi over 2 is 1. And -2 pi is back to 0. So it's a smooth, continuous curve like this. So I'm looking at the amplitude of the graph, which is the height of the graph, the maximum value of this graph. And the maximum value of this graph is 1. That's the height of the graph. I also want to look at the domain for this graph. Domain, remember, is your side-to-side value. And it can go from -infinity to infinity for the domain. What is the range? It has a maximum value of 1, a minimum value of -1. So its range is -1 to 1. We also have something called the frequency, or the period of the graph. I want to know when I complete one complete sine graph, which goes from 0, this completes one of the sine graph. It repeats again in the same pattern. So where do I finish one complete graph of the sine? I finish it by 2 pi, and that's the period. Now, one other aspect I want to look at today, and that is this function odd or even or neither? Is there symmetry with respect to the y-axis? Is there symmetry with respect to the origin? Or does neither of those things happen? What do we see here? Odd, even, or neither? What is it?
Either.
Nope, it's one of the others. It's either odd or even. Okay. What is odd is symmetric with respect to the origin. Even is respect to the y-axis. So if I saw it here and I saw it here, it would be even. But if I go through the origin to this point, and I go through the origin in the same direction here, I find a point here, and I find a point here, or here, and here. So this is an even function. It's symmetric with respect to the origin. I mean odd, sorry. It's odd because it's symmetric with respect to the origin.